Hey everybody, this is Jason at Fastback Studios, and I just thought I'd walk you around the room and show you the mics that we're using for the Kai Alfred Hillig session, the Fastback session tonight. If you watched the last Tech Talk, we learned a few things from our first Fastback session in our room. One interesting thing is that we don't typically have a live audience in our studio, and we don't typically take a whole band and shove them in a corner to perform. So there were some sonic challenges that we weren't quite prepared for. And this time around, I'm going to talk you through kind of how I overcame some of those things and how I swapped out some mics and did things a little differently, and some things did the same. And also it's a different group. This time around we have guitar, cello, and piano and vocals, so it's quite a bit more simple. There's no percussion to deal with, and that was a major factor last time. But first of all, I'll just kind of walk you around the room and show you what we have here. So starting up here in the air, this is the Neumann TLM 149, and it's a transformerless tube microphone. I have two of these up in the air, and they're set on omnidirectional. We have a pretty good, size live room for recording. It's a 12-foot peak ceiling, but what we want to try to do is keep these mics away from the ceiling as much as possible. So it's kind of a balancing act of getting them in the air above everything to capture kind of the overall sound, to get a nice stereo room sound of everything, but at the same time not be so high that you're getting the reflections directly off the ceiling, or at least as much as possible. So that's kind of the idea with the positioning of this microphone. And the omnidirectional is just to kind of, the Omni seems to have a smoother frequency response, or rather it does have a smoother frequency response. And in fact, if you've never done this, if you go to Neumann's website and you click on this microphone, there's a little chart that comes up, a little interactive chart, and you can go through it and select cardioid, omni, and it'll show you the actual polar plot, the polar response of the microphone, and the frequency response in the different polar patterns, which is very interesting. It's a great learning experience if you've never done it. So check it out. And then I'm just going to kind of walk you around. So this here on the piano is a vocal mic we have set up just in case. I think the feeling I got from soundcheck is that he's not probably going to be singing a lot, but lo and behold, someone will say, I don't really sing very much, and then during the set they'll break out and sing something. I'll be like, I wish I had a mic on you. So I put it up there just in case. If I don't need it, no big deal. It's the Neumann U87. Set in cardioid. Now, another thing from the Tech Talk last time, the vocal mics that I had up for the background vocalists were the Rode NT2s. And while they're decent microphones, one thing that I pointed out is I had them in omnidirectional to keep kind of the off-axis frequency response, not the off-axis frequency coloration from being a factor in the mic. And so if you flip it into cardioid, you start getting kind of with the cheaper mics, you get those problems. Obviously this is not a cheap microphone if you know anything about Neumann mics, so you don't really have that problem with this mic. It has a great frequency response in pretty much any pattern you put it in. So that being the case, I put it in cardioid to focus it on his vocal and to keep it in a good phase relationship with the other mics in the room. So this is kind of a just-in-case mic. Nice to have a U87 for just-in-case mic. And then in the piano here, we have a very special microphone. This is, I believe, a late 50s. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's a late 50s. It's the Neumann SM2. It's a stereo tube condenser mic. And there's two capsules in here. If you're not familiar with stereo mics, they actually put two capsules in, and there's a little rotator up top where you can rotate the top capsule, and so you can have it so that the two capsules are directly above each other, or so that they're in an XY, or you can do like more of a Bloomline thing. So it's a really versatile little microphone, and because it's a Neumann tube mic, it sounds amazing. Has a beautiful frequency response, very flat, very what we would say is natural sounding. So putting it on the piano was very simple. I just basically listened to the piano, listen to him play, and then place the mic, and that was it. So you love it when that happens. But that's a very special mic to us. There's not a lot of those floating around, so brought it out for this session because they have a lot of really delicate piano parts, so I wanted to make sure and get a really good level at the microphone without having to boost it. So a tube mic is great for that. So there you have it. And then moving over here, let's see what we have. So this is the guitar setup for today. And now Kai told me that most of the time he stands when he plays, and he's a pretty tall guy, but one thing I noticed about him right away is that he does this. He moves a lot, which is great, but when you're recording it, it can be a little more challenging. So particularly if you're recording it in a very live space with other instruments. So I asked him if it would be okay if he sat. And that's a very tricky thing because you don't want to put a performer in a situation where they're doing something that's uncomfortable for them. So I told him, try it out during sound check. If it doesn't work, no big deal. I'll adjust. I can raise the mics up. Not a big deal. But I got him to sit. So what the advantage of that for me is that I can place these mics, and he, for the most part, stays put, which just makes my job easier. So it's completely selfish. But these are two fantastic microphones. Starting here, this is the Neumann U48, large diaphragm tube condenser, and if you're familiar with it, you know already it's a fantastic mic. I have this one in cardioid as well because, of course, it has fantastic frequency response and cardioid pattern. This I picked for his voice, just listening to him talk and listening to him sing, listening to videos or listening to audio of him that he's done previously, and just match the mic to his voice, and it turns out it's a great match. Run it through the API pre, and it sounds fantastic. So not much to say about that. This little guy here on the guitar is the Neumann KM84i, and this is an old mic. It's a vintage microphone. Great small diaphragm condenser, fantastic frequency response, and the reason I chose a small diaphragm condenser this time around is because I wanted to have a little bit more control. Kai has a lot of parts that are really soft and subtle, and so I wanted to have a lot more control in terms of like the level of the guitar versus the level of the vocal, and also get an accurate phase response by just kind of shifting the two microphones, and it doesn't take much. You just kind of tilt it one way or the other, and you find that spot where the phase coherency is good and the frequency response is good. And also he's still kind of singing like this, and he's coming up like this, and during the performance you're going to see him moving around a little bit, and so the effect of that when you listen to it is that it kind of sounds, let's not move the mic, that it sounds like that it sounds basically like you're turning away for a second, so that it sounds like this. And to deal with that in mixing, you can turn it up, but then you're just turning up noise. So my choice in the mic was to get something that would pick up a big amount of space and have a good body to it, even if he's back here, or if he's over here, or if he's down here singing up or singing down. And so that's by and large why I chose this microphone. And I'm going to try to be really careful getting up so I don't actually knock it over on camera, because then there's evidence. So here we have the Manley Gold Reference. This is a fantastic mic. This is a large diaphragm tube condenser, and I can't really say enough good things about Manley in general. Just makes fantastic gear. There's zero wrong with it. You can use it on anything. I prefer it on instruments. A lot of people prefer these as vocal mics. I haven't found it to be my favorite for vocals. Not to say that it's not a great vocal mic, because I'm certain that it is, but it's not necessarily my go-to. However, on instruments, it is exquisite, particularly on strings. A condenser is not something I would typically choose for a stringed instrument, because you get a lot of the sound of the bow on the fingerboard, where you get the bow on the strings and you get the kind of scrapey sound. And I like to stay away from that as much as possible. So where I'm miking this, you'll see in the video, is pretty much right between the F hole and the bridge. This is set to cardioid, and once again has a fantastic frequency response, and off-axis rejection is marvelous. Actually second to none in my opinion. So I can pretty much put that mic wherever, in the proximity of a good place, and it makes my job really easy. It just, it's a great mic. So the other thing is it has this ridiculously burly shock mount, and so you could pretty much have like a cheerleading squad in here, and I don't think it would affect it much, but might affect me. And then we have this is the KM184, another Neumann. This is another fantastic mic. I'm fairly certain that she's just going to be doing some background vocals. So I'm not, this is more of sort of another mic, just in case I want to kind of bring up her background part a little bit. As you can see, we have this mic overhead, which is the other Neumann 149 stereo room mic. So the vocals I'll likely just get from that mic, but this is just in case. So, and then finally we have the DPA up there on the ceiling, the little black microphone hanging down, and I'm mostly cutting to that for the applause. I'm not using it a lot for the actual group, because we have more than enough coverage between all these mics. So I'm pretty much just using it at the end of the song, when the crowd is clapping, because they're over here and all these mics are sort of pointed this direction. It sounds really roomy and strange, so I cut to that mic during the applause and cut the other mics down, which gives the impression that the audience is right there with you. So yeah, that's about it. The one other thing that we did change are these partitions, these funky old partitions. Thanks to Jason at Cleartone Studios for loaning these to us, giving these to us. It was really funny. He's like, "Hey, you want these things?" And we're like, "Yeah, I think so." Cool, and take them. So but our studio, it's very comfortable. It's funky comfortable, so they fit right in here. But the purpose that they're serving is pretty much to just kind of cut out some of the low mid frequency ring that we're getting from having everybody kind of backed into the corner, which again, if I were actually recording these guys without an audience here, I would likely move them into the middle of the room where it's a little bit more free field. So yeah, that's about it. Any questions you guys have, any comments, anything you want me to clarify or go into deeper about a microphone, feel free to comment on our Facebook page, comment on the YouTube page, and share it and like it, and we'll see you next time.